This is tape 2 of an interview conducted on the 29th of April 1994 with Carmela Sinagra. Carmela, can you tell me a little bit about the Wanneroo show?
Well, that was a yearly event and was something we all looked forward to, because we used to finish up with a little fairy doll and a stick, and we used to think it was great, you know, hooray! And used to have rides on the pony merry-go-rounds, because that was a treat. You didn't have it every day like you now, sort of thing. And later, as I got older and got married and had kids going to school, we used to have a huge sewing store. And I can remember Mrs. Craig, who was Jim Craig's wife, and he was some member of Parliament, used to always come in and buy her children's Christmas presents off our store.
We used to actually have a stall down there.
We used to actually have a stall once I was married and we had children going to school. Mm-hmm. That was a parents and friends stall.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We used to all sew for it.
In earlier times than that, when you were younger, did it go?
Yeah, I don't really remember a great deal about stalls. They used to, if I can remember, they always had horses. No, the wood chopping, that used to terrify me, because I used to always be frightened they'd cut their toes off or something. But that used to be good. And they used to have, I don't know whether they had the high jumps then or not. They used to have high jumps and long jumps and races. I'm sure they had them then, because I can't remember them having any other time. And until the two schools then used to have a big sports day, and we used to have a big, that sort of thing then.
Oh right, so it was what, St Anthony's
and the Wanneroo State School.
You competed against them.
But we didn't compete against one another. It was just a free-for-all thing.
Uh-huh.
You know, it didn't matter what school or anything. It's just a sports day.
Right.
And you competed against one another.
Do you remember St Anthony's being there?
No, I was only 2.
Oh, but of course, it's a daft question, wasn't it? But you remember the early years of St Anthony?
I do remember the early years of St Anthony, yes. I remember Mr. Crisafulli used to go out. Now they have these nice big fireworks, but Mr. Crisafulli used to go out towards the end of the service, and he'd shoot off gelignite. Oh. You'd hear these great big bang bangs out in the paddock, because there was no houses or anything there then, and that was like a big hurrah sort of thing, you know.
Was there a really close community within the church?
Yes, there was. Very close. To start off with, there was a clash as to what the church was going to be called, whether it was going to be a St Peter's or a St Anthony's, and it was a matter of who had the money to get the statue in. Got the church, I think, and I think Mr. Crisafulli sort of had the money more so than Mr. Parrott, so it was called St Anthony's after Mr. Crisafulli. And then, of course, the dig now is that the Anglicans got St Peter's. But we're all great on great terms.
Mm. And, of course, having the Catholic school, primary school, was important.
Yes. The sisters used to come out from West Perth to teach. Half the time the old butter box would break down, and you wonder where the sisters were.
They'd come out every day, would they?
They'd come out every day. Till the Servite priest, 43 years ago, the Servite priests came to Wanneroo, and they built that priory over there, and they lived in it for a while. Then they had changes. They built over in Melbourne as well, so they let the sisters then move in there for a while. Yeah, which was good. Didn't have so far to go. But one of our original sisters is still living.
Really?
Yes. and she's out at Mercerville Craigie. Yeah, and one of them, saw her about 2 months ago.
Is she well?
Yes, she's not well. She's starting to look a little bit old, but she's still the same. Still the same. She's lovely.
I'll have to get you to introduce me to these people.
Yeah, anytime, no problem.
And would you come down from Yanchep church at weekend?
Well, in those days, you didn't have it every Sunday because we didn't have a resident priest.
Oh, right.
Until the Servites came to Wanneroo, we really didn't have a resident priest. So they'd have it sort of once a month, or if you had like special feast days like the 15th of August, 25th of March, 1st of November, what were special saints' days and feast days, then you had Mass. And those days, although people may not have appeared to be religious, they never worked on the 1st of November. That was All Souls Day or All Saints Day, is it? They never worked, whatever special feast days anyway, they wouldn't work. They'd go to the beach.
Mm. So if there wasn't church, did you celebrate Sunday at home in any way?
Oh, Sunday was market day.
Oh,
So you picked to pack tomatoes most Sundays. Other than that, no. We used to, I suppose you mean by cooking ways too. If it was special like Christmas and Easter, and then you got chicken, you had roast chicken. Other than that you didn't. As I say, you had the duck and the swan and the
yeah, whatever.
whatever else was there.
What I really thought was, what I was really wondering was, if you couldn't go to church every Sunday, as maybe you would have chosen to, was religion within your home as well?
Yes and no. See, I can remember my mother never ever talked religion, but my dad, even though he liked his drink of wine, would quite often talk about religion. And he was, I first heard from him where Our Lady appeared to the 3 children at Fatima. And, when I think back, and I thought, now, you think to say, now that was strange, that Dad should have sort of pointed that out. And I think really that I looked more upon my dad than I did my mum. I don't know. I used to work out in the garden. I didn't have to work heavy with Dad, but in those days all the kids did have to help because it was the only way you were going to get along. And even anyone that was working, all the money still went into one pocket. And then if you needed anything, that it was sort of got for you. Whereas now you go to work and you have your own money, but not then. So.
How did you cope when you went to boarding school? Did you feel like you'd been let loose?
I loved it. But then again, see, I liked school. Schoolwork was never hard to me. No, the only time I ever felt I was let loose is when I was married. I can do my own thing. No. See, I would have liked to have gone dressmaking, but Mum wouldn't let me. Dad wanted me to, but Mum says no. And I did do dressmaking, but I sort of had to learn as my kids grew up and up. I sort of learned by the mistakes I made as they grew up and up, sort of thing, and that's how I learned to sew.
Camilla, going back to when you were younger, we're jumping around a bit.
Well, yeah,
Never mind.
that's why I said we should sort of clean it up.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Do you remember very much about Yanchep Park? Obviously...
Yanchep Park, yes. Yes. They used to have motorcycle racing around Yanchep Park.
Oh.
Yes. And they used to always say to you, don't stand on that side, you stand on this side, because if the bike goes off, it's going to go off on that side. And I used to be terrified of them. I used to be terrified of the motorbikes. I can remember the koalas have always been there. One thing I can remember, which it's a pity, I wish they'd do something with it now, where the lake is and where Gloucester Park is, Gloucester Lodge, you could come up in little rowboats all the way up there, whereas now you can't because of all the rushes, and haven't been able to for a long, long time. I don't know whether it's neglect or war or whatever did that, but I can remember that. And Sundays, quite often on Sundays, the men would pack off and go for a beer. I can remember the people from Carabooda in that swamp. Actually, I don't know whether we were living in that swamp at the time or up at Yancha. They were all on the back of this truck taking the Sunday off to go to Yancha Hotel. And the driver didn't take the turn and rolled the truck. They were lucky that no one would.
Camaro, I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about the park, then I'll give you a rest. Do you remember any of the people who were running the inn or the...
I can remember the Cutlers were there for quite a few years. I'm not quite sure who ran it before them. The park, I think, originally was, my earliest recollection was Shapcott. Then I can remember Mr. Bailey after that. He was not actually running the hotel, he was running the park. And can't remember who came off. No, Jim Mitchell. There was a Mitchell there. No.
Was there a lot of visitors there at weekends?
There was a lot of visitors there weekends. They used to have buses and buses come out from Perth. They did. But see, in those days, the hotels in Perth were all closed. And so far out of Perth, you could be open. So, of course, they'd all go on picnics and cruises around the lake, and the caves were an interest, which they don't seem to be pushing them very much now. The Cabaret Cave, well, that caved in when we had that earthquake. I don't know if they ever sort of did anything with it again. And that was like a real, well, they did use it as a big hall there at one stage. It was really nice.
You sound like you've got good memories.
I have really, when I can sort of go back and see them, you know. Yeah. Well, with the, when I used to go to get the milk at Copman's, we're jumping around a bit, when I used to go to get the milk at Copman's, just up towards the end of the lake up there, which is in the National Park Reserve, there used to be a little cave, and in this cave we used to go in, instead of using the billy to get me milk, we were getting the billy to catch the jewel geese. We used to go and catch jewel geese. 3 or 4 of us, there's Arlene, Margaret and myself, there's the 3 of us, we'd go and catch these jewel geese, and we'd take them back and we'd cook them and eat them. Then I'd get my milk and walk back home, because we were some distance away from the Copmans. And driving past there not that very long ago, I looked at this cave and I thought, how on earth did we ever get into it? So we must have really had to get down on our hands and knees to get into it. But once you got into it, there was room enough for you to sit and fish with your little bit of string and bacon.
So you actually fished in?
Oh, we actually fished, yes, we did. Mind you, you're not really allowed to, I don't suppose, but that was next to the house, so we did.
Yeah, I don't know these fish. What,
Do you know the prawns? You know a prawn?
Yeah.
Well, the jilgies are like prawns. They're like yabbies. You know yabby?
So these are quite delicacy.
Oh, they were beautiful. So we used to catch so many of them. We'd go up and we'd cook them, we'd eat them, and then I'd get me billy of milk and go home.
You reckon you're still in there?
You'd never get in. When I looked at it, I thought, how did I ever get in there? Oh, I tell you.
Did you ever get up to mischief?
No. This is what I said to someone the other day. We used to have a lot of fun, but we never got into mischief. We weren't vandals. We never stole, you never broke anything, no graffiti. You know, we just sort of, oh, it's hard to explain. I suppose we were a happy lot of kids, you know. You had nothing, so you didn't miss it.
Carmela, it's been lovely talking to you. It really has. I've enjoyed this morning.
Thank you.
This is the second interview conducted with Carmela Sinagra on the 12th of May 1994.
Carmela, we talked about your wedding. Could I ask you what date you got married?
On the 11th of June 1949 in St Anthony's Church, Wanneroo. The reception was then held in the old Wanneroo Road Board Hall, and your immediate family came to what we used to call the wedding breakfast, and then all of Wanneroo came to what we call the supper. You invited, well, I mean, everybody knew everybody, and it was kids and all. It wasn't just mum and dad. It was mum and dad and family. It used to be great fun, really.
And after you were married, where did you and Joe go to live?
Well, after we were married, for the first 12 months, we lived up where Joe's actually grew up, at Pinjar, on their property.
That was, whereabouts in Pinjar was it?
At the top end, north of Wanneroo. And his dad had a few cows there on the property, but had a lot of land up there. And 3 of the boys sort of stayed up there when Mum and Dad came down to Wanneroo. And they gardened for a while, and Joe used to be the carrier, used to take it into market. And I used to get left up there in the wilderness on my own. I used to have to leave at 3 o'clock. So we decided to move down to Wanneroo, and my dad then gave us 7 acres of land next to where the Wanneroo Civic Centre is now. And where Sinagra Street is, that was our property, and there we lived in a little house which was the size of a shed, car shed, and Mr. Kelly built it. He built most of the places in Wanneroo out of asbestos, and actually we had tiles, and my brother then lined it because he was working in the plaster business. And we had 2 rooms, a bedroom and a kitchen. Then we added another room, so I'd have another bedroom. And then, because the kitchen came off a big long veranda, we closed off the other part and made another bedroom. But before all that, we had actually 3 children sleeping in our room and the kitchen. And to do the washing, you would do the washing outside. Although when we got power, I was lucky enough to have a washing machine, the old Pope ringer type washing machine. We used to have to bring the tin tub inside for a bath. That was a treat. You boiled the copper and had hot water. Eventually then we built on a bit more, always around these 2 original rooms, and we had a laundry bathroom. Well, we lived in that for 17 years and then moved down here because we had machinery and trucks, and the show was then thinking of upgrading, putting up the other hall. Wouldn't have liked us to be next door with all the machinery and trucks. So we then bought 5 acres off Joe's brother Bert, and we had a house built and moved our original 2 rooms down with us, which is still down the back.
This is into San Rosa Road.
Into San Rosa Road, yep, from Sinagra Street down here. Because when we were living up there, there was no such thing as Sinagra Street. It was all property, you see. There was no residential then, it wasn't a town sign.
Was the roads made out there?
No, no. And my dad actually owned a fair bit of that, 100 acres, where the shopping centre and that is now, and up the back. Owned a lot of that. And the wildflowers that grew up there were absolutely beautiful. It's such a crime to see it all cleared. But
Did you work the property up there? Did you?
Dad did, not the 100 acres. He only worked about 10 acres. He had vines, and then in say about 3 or 4 acres of vines, and then he had market garden. It was really his livelihood.
Mm.
Yeah.
But you and Joe didn't work the market garden?
No, Joe was always into trucks.
Mm.
And he wheat carted for a while away till our third was born, and then decided that he would find something where he could be home.
Mm. And what about your children, Carmela? What were your children's names?
Well, the eldest is Vincent, after his grandfather, Joe's dad. The second one, which was custom then, you named them after your grandparents. And then the next one was Benedict, after my dad. Then Rosemary, well, I don't know who she was called after, Rosemary Ann. She was really our only daughter, and then we had Michael and Philip. When we moved down here to San Rosa Road, I was driving past one day, and I called in at somebody's place, and there was these 2 sad pairs of eyes. The mother had walked out and left them. The father was up the bush, and the auntie had them, and she says, and I don't want them. And they're only little things like this. And I thought, then, if I can, I'm going to give somebody a home. And Joe says, you're not doing anything like that. And I says, oh, why not? So then anyway, I had to get, of course, character reference, and then they had to come out and inspect the home to see if you're good enough to sort of do this. And they decided, because I said to them I wanted a girl, because we had the 2 boys, the girl and the 2 boys, you see, just for our girl to have someone. When they brought them out, they asked us if we'd take 3, and if they could use us as a placement home till they placed them. And I said, oh yes, that'll be okay, but as long as I can have somebody for my daughter to play with. So when they brought the 3 girls, after having them for a while, he come back and he says, I can't find anyone to take them, we're going to split them up. And I just says, no way. So I've had them ever since. And that's about 24 years.
So you became their real
And I became their mother. And Joe, they used to call they used to call him Uncle, because their own dad was still alive, but they didn't know where he was at that time. And one of them come and says, what will people think we call you Mum and call him Uncle Joe? I says, don't worry about it. Anyway, eventually they all called him Pop.
With
Yes.
his real?
Oh yes, yes, very thrilled. And they're still all around, The youngest one is in Japan. Oh, their names were, did I give you all of our kids' names?
Not the foster children.
No. Their names was Karen, Janine and Gay Beckingham.
Mm-hmm.
And funny you should say that, because I was talking about this not so long ago. How I was firm. I says, yeah, but I says, it paid off, didn't it? And I says, oh yeah. we put them through private education, gave them all the opportunities, learned dressmaking. The youngest one to learn the piano, and taught them dance. Well, took them to learn dancing. They had all the opportunities.
And your children went to which school, Carmela?
Primary school at St Anthony's, and then high school, it was called St Philip's, and then it was called Servite College. And the girls at the time could only go to St Kieran's because it wasn't co-ed. And then it turned co-ed, but like the fostered girls by then had left. And then Rosemary and Gay went to Mercy College, Koondoola.
Right. Where were the other two high schools you mentioned?
Servite College is in Cape Street. I think they'd call that Chute Hill. And Mercy College was in Koondoola, Mirrabooka Avenue. And they was the first ones in, you know, they sort of saw the school grow.
And were you, going back to the primary school, St Anthony's Primary School, were you involved with the school as well, Carmela?
Very much so, very much so, with the parents and friends. We used to have a stall down the show every year, and you'd think it was a clothing factory what we used to have on it. But yes, if there was money to be raised, we'd all be out there working together, pulling together to get what the school needed. I taught the dead girls for 30 years.
What did you teach them?
How to dance, how to be presented. If they didn't have a partner, we'd find them one. Also, when they first started to have the dead balls, they used to have supper, which was an elaborate supper because most of it was done by the ladies. And I did quite a bit of that too, including Joe. Joe used to help in the kitchen. We'd be there till all hours in the morning doing dishes.
Where did they hold the ball?
In the Shire Hall. And they'd be presented either to one of the Monsignors or one of the priests or some member of Parliament or something like that. And it's still going, you know, they think that it's something that's sort of on the way out, but it's not really.
The girls still love it.
Yes, yes.
What year did the dead balls start?
Well, it started really as a celebration of the church's 25th anniversary.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was in 57. Yeah, and then as I say, 30 years thereon, well, I just give up. The first year, really, I had nothing to do with it because it was all new and they got an outsider, someone who knew something about training the girls. And a Mrs. Cutler from Yanchep was very, very helpful with the crockery and cutlery and supper and laying of the tables and all that.
So you remained involved with that even after your children had left
Yes.
St Anthony's Primary School?
I did. But all of our children went to the primary school, and our children's children are at the primary school to this day.
tell me about the nuns.
Well, the nuns used to have to come out from West Perth and would quite often break down. So I would take charge.
They had a car, did they?
They had an old car, we used to call it the old butter box, because it was a square looking car. And Sister Stanislaus used to teach music, the piano, and she used to teach us some of the singing. Sister Berkman's, by the time we got into Sister Berkman's class, we used to do quite a bit of sewing.
We're going back to when...
Oh, this is way back in I suppose 39. Sister Mary Berkman used to teach us to make aprons and things like that. Sister Mary Brendan then taught us how to knit, but she also, now they have square dancing, but we used to call it the 4-hand reel and the 6-hand reel, and Sister Mary Brendan used to teach us all that. She took us into the town hall and we won the Estedfords for St Anthony's way back in those days. Yes, with one of the school buses. We also used to go into West Perth. St Bridget's had a big hall there to put on a concert, and then we'd be taken back out again. They used to take us out on a picnic once a year, which was Christmas time. We used to have to hire a big MTT bus. They used to either take us to Yansip, the zoo, or one of the beaches. And they were great picnics. If it was one of the nuns' saint feast day, one of the higher up nuns would come out from Perth for the day, and the children of St Anthony's would then bring like eggs, vegetables, milk, cheese, whatever you had in your garden or whatever you sort of were living off, you brought these for the nuns to take home. And we used to look forward to that, not because of what we were giving them, which I suppose was being selfish, but because we used to get the day off. Although we had to go to school, we were allowed to go for a walk in the bush. And this Mother Ignatius, she'd come because she used to love to see the different wildflowers, and she'd count the different varieties. It was really great. We used to play also a game called Rounders, which is now very similar to baseball. Used to quite enjoy that.
And when did the nuns come to live out in Wanneroo?
They never really lived in Wanneroo. They came out for a short time when we got some Indian sisters. And I don't know that they could drive. And they were of the Servite order, which is the priest that we used to have in Wanneroo. So they then went into Jundana and Tute Hill and gave the sisters the priory, so they made it into a convent. But then some of the parents weren't happy with the Indian sisters, although they were very highly educated. So they then brought back the other sisters, and they went into higher up schools. Still see them.
So what year did the Indian sisters come out here? Roughly, yes.
So
I'll keep
late 50s.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
late 50s.
And what about the priest out here? There was the friary first.
Well, very first I can recall having Father Langmead, who later became Monsignor Langmead. But before him there was, he was Father Prendeville, and I think he later became Archbishop Prendeville, I think, not sure. And then we had a Father Brennan, who in those days, because we didn't have Mass every Sunday, he used to go around to visit the people. And this is when they first, how can you say, committed themselves to giving so much to the church a year. And in those days it was £19 And strangely enough, people just gave it just to sort of try and get the church on its feet. Even though they were hard times, they still gave the £19 over the year.
The church was important to the community.
And of course they used to have that one big feast day a year, which was a big day.
So when did you get, you mentioned earlier that you just had a priest coming out occasionally to do services. When did you get a full-time priest in?
Well, when the Servites came to Wanneroo, and that was late for...
Good with his hands.
in 50s, in the early 1950, 51, yeah.
So it was quite a long time after the church was built.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. So, and then we had a full-time priest, and the priest that came out then, one of the earlier ones, Father Brunetti, who later left the Servites, he did all the extensions on the church without any cost. He was a great one for joining in everything, and people just gave to him. You know, they never hesitated, which was good.
He was well known.
Yes.
And what, he left the priesthood, did he?
No, he just left the order
Right.
because they were going to send him back to America and he didn't want to go, see. So he changed orders and he stayed here in Perth then.
Right. He didn't stay in Wanneroo?
No.
No. And Father Langmead, I believe he was a chaplain.
Yes, he was. Yes. Yes, he was a great fellow, Father Langmead, and then he later became Monsignor Langmead. And when the Servites came out, well, then he just took over Osborne Park.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was the priest.
He was the priest, yeah.
At the beginning of the war.
Yeah.
Was he?
Mm.
So what happened when he went?
And when he went, that's when we got Father Brennan.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about the kindergarten, Camilla?
Well, the kindergarten, you see, for us to get extra property, you had to put something on it. So I says to Father Marchetti, I says, how about we put up a kindergarten? No, he wouldn't hear of it. I says, look, I says, you need a kindergarten. So he turned around and says to me, he says, well, if anything goes wrong, he says, it's going to be your fault. I says, that's quite all right. I says, it won't go wrong. I says, you've got to be positive. And at one stage there, he left Wanneroo because then they started up in Melbourne. And actually I was quite proud at the time because I don't do things for glory. I don't expect any praise. I do it because I like to do it. And when Father Marchetti they asked him what was his greatest achievement, he says, well, really, he says, the kindergarten, but he says, that wasn't my doing. He says, it was carmela Sinagra's. And, you know, that to me was the biggest honour anyone could give me because it was not expected, and to come from someone who could have says, yes, he did it all. And I mean, really, without him, it couldn't have, you know. So.
What, did you raise the money to build the kindergarten?
And, well, some of it, but no, not really, because it all came through church, you know, donations and that.
And what year was the kindergarten built? Oh no, I'm sorry, Camille. Just roughly.
It would have to be in the mid-50s, 60s, I should think, because it was after the Servites came.
Right.
Yeah, I should.
And you worked as well, Camilla?
I did, not until all the kids were off my hands. Or really, I felt a little bit guilty with the youngest one because he was only just starting school. And I used to have to rely on the eldest one to drop him off. And because Joe was working with a truck, he was all right. He would be here when Philip got home from school, you see. But I always felt a little bit guilty that I should have been home. Although, you see, I had to sort of support somehow. So we had school buses, so I worked on the school bus.
And what about your parents, did you care for your parents as they got older?
Oh, well, I mean, Mum, when Dad had cancer, he lived here for a while. And then after he died, Mum was up home on her own, but then she come and lived here for 22 months, and we bought the house across the road for her. And she wasn't happy there, so she moved back in here. She was here another 2 years. And unfortunately, because she's not able to do a great deal for herself, and I couldn't, not being well last couple of years, I wasn't able to do much for her, although I had her here then. She's now in the Villa Terenza.
Well cared for.
Yeah.
And what about Joe's parents? Did
Well,
you?
Joe's parents, we got the house over the road built for Mother, because when there was so many in the family, there's always a little bit of conflict, and they didn't really want the house built anywhere but on the property. And I thought, well, nobody's going to worry about it, she's still on her own. So at the time, this wasn't subdivided, well, it was, but it hasn't almost. And I said to Joe, well, let's get a block over the road for your mother. So we did that, and we were able to sort of put a house on it. And she had an inside toilet. After all those years, she sort of lived to see the day that she got a new home and an inside toilet. And then I think maybe she lasted 3 years, if that,
What
which
year
was
that?
sad. She died in 1980, when she was 80. Yeah.
You've got fond memories of her.
Yes. She was lovely. She'd wait for me to get home off the school bus, and she'd either come over with something. She said, I thought you'd like this for tea, just an excuse to come over. And then if it wasn't something like that, she'd say, I thought I'd bring this over for the chooks. Just to sort of have that little walk, you know. She was great. I got on very well with her.
Right. You've got a club within the...
Yeah, I was talking with somebody here, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a club going for the old people, just to get together every so often? Well, she says, yeah, that'd be nice. And she had a niece working at the show at the time, so she got her niece to ask if we could have the hall. And we started with about 19, and now we're almost 70. And they really look forward to it. And mind you, they don't do a great deal. They get up there, the women tend to chat. Sometimes they might knit or crochet, not too often, unless I bring something up for them to do, like in craft, but they're not keen, they just like to get there and to talk. The men like to play cards. They play briscola, which is an Italian game of cards. Some of them use the Australian cards, some like to use the Italian type cards. They also like to play carpet bowls. They've also got a pool table up there. They're really, you know, very keen for this one day a month. It's the first Thursday of the month they get together. And if at all possible, and we have money in the kitty, we take them out maybe once in 2 months, and they all look forward to that.
This is within the school?
This is within, I suppose you say the church, more to do with the church than the school. And also with the Shire's help, because it's in the Shire Hall that we have it, and we have their backing and their help if we need anything, you see, so it's a mixture. And
most of the people who come along are old St Anthony's pupils?
No, not really. They're old parishioners of St Anthony. Yeah, there are some of the pupils there, but we're the workers. We sort of put on morning tea for them, and we sort of everybody brings a plate, and then we sort of warm it up or put it out for them on one big table, so it's all help yourself. We also have people come from the Villa Terenza up. Mum comes up with a bus from down there too. She meets up with her friends there as well.
So Villa Terenza is where, Camilla?
In Marangaroo Drive, Marangaroo and Wanneroo, yeah.
So people who are in there keep close contact with
Yeah.
the community in
Yeah.
Wanneroo.
Well, they look forward to it too, you see. Yeah. So they like to play carpet bowls. One of them likes to play carpet bowls, the other like to play cards. So it's good. Oh, the weather's been nice. I don't know what happens in the winter time, whether they'll still come or not, you know.
And what about the St Anthony's School? Are there still any nuns teaching it?
No,
No.
no nuns.
No.
No nuns. They're all lay teachers.
And you've got a resident priest now.
We have a resident priest, yes. We have Father Boyle there at the moment. We're in the process of going to build a new church. After all these years, we tried to get it for the 50th anniversary, and there was no hope. There was disagreements over where to put it, and then the Archbishop would knock it back, and finally now he says we can build it. So we're just trying to find the right one and to raise the money.
And how long has Father Boyle been there?
Father Boyle has been there. Well, Father Boyle's been there almost 40 years, but he's been there, say, 8 years, and then they might send him to Melbourne for so long, and then he comes back again. It just so they get a little bit of a change. But I think now, because they don't have the priests, so many priests, they have closed the actual parish down in Melbourne, although they've still got a couple of priests over in the, I think it's the unis or something, over there.
So he's obviously part of Wanneroo.
He's part of Wanneroo, yes. I told him we got old together.
Carmela, this is lovely. I'd like to say thank you.
Oh, thank
for doing
you.
This interview with me.
I hope it comes out all right.
I will be fine. Thank you.
So we did that, and we were able to sort of put a house on it, and she had an inside toilet. After all those years, she sort of lived to see the day that she got a new home and had an inside toilet. And then I think maybe she lasted 3 years, if that,
What
which
year
was
that?
sad. She died in 1980, and she was 80. Yeah.
You've got fond memories of her.
Yes, she was lovely. She'd wait for me to get home off the school bus, and she'd either come over with something. She said, I thought you'd like this for tea, just an excuse to come over. And then if it wasn't something like that, she'd say, I thought I'd bring this over for the chooks. Just to sort of have that little walk, you know. She was great. I got on very well with her.
That's good. Of course, you lived on the same property for a while didn't you, when you first got married. Did that work out okay when you were
Actually, no, because they weren't up there. See, they were down in Wanneroo then.
there? Oh, were they?
Yeah, and it was only just Joe and I lived up there. And one of the brothers used to drive up there.
Oh, so this is why
Yeah.
you said that you were on your own up there.
Yeah.
Right. You've got a club within the...
Yeah, yeah, I was talking with somebody here and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a club going for the old people just to get together every so often? Well, she says, yeah, that'd be nice. And she had a niece working at the show at the time, so she got her niece to ask if we could have the hall. And we started with about 19 and now we're almost 70. And they really look forward to it. And mind you, they don't do a great deal. They get up there, the women tend to chat. Sometimes they might knit or crochet, not too often unless I bring something up for them to do, like in craft, but they're not keen, they just like to get there and to talk. The men like to play cards. They play briscola, which is an Italian game of cards. Some of them use the Australian cards, some like to use the Italian type cards. They also like to play carpet bowls. They've also got a pool table up there. They're really, you know, very keen for this one day a month It's the first Thursday of the month they get together, and if at all possible and we have money in the kitty, we take them out maybe once in 2 months, and they all look forward to that.
This is within the school.
This is within, I suppose you say the church, more to do with the church than the school. And also with the Shire's help, because it's in the Shire Hall that we have it, and we have their backing and their help if we need anything, you see. So it's a mixture. And
most of the people who come along are old St Anthony's pupils?
no, not really. They're old parishioners of St Anthony. Yeah, there are some of the pupils there, but we're the workers. We sort of put on morning tea for them, and we sort of, everybody brings a plate, and then we sort of warm it up or put it out for them on one big table, so it's all help yourself. We also have people come from the Villa Terenza. Mum comes up with a bus from down there too. She meets up with her friends there as well.
So Villa Terenzio is where, Camilla?
In Marangaroo Drive, Marangaroo and Wanneroo, yeah.
So people who are in there keep close contact with the community of Wanneroo.
Well, they look forward to it too, you see. Yeah. They like to play carpet bowls. One of them likes to play carpet bowls, the other like to play cards. So it's good. Oh, the weather's been nice. I don't know what happens in the winter time, whether they'll still come or not, you know.
And what about the St Anthony's School? Are there still any nuns teaching it?
No nuns.
No.
No nuns. They're all lay teachers.
And you've got a resident priest now?
We have a resident priest, yes. We have Father Boyle there at the moment. We're in the process of going to build a new church. After all these years, we tried to get it for the 50th anniversary, and there was no hope. There was disagreements over where to put it, and then the Archbishop would knock it back, and finally now he says we can build it. So we're just trying to find the right one and to raise the money.
And how long has Father Boyle been there?
Father Boyle has been there. Well, Father Boyle's been there almost 40 years, but he's been there, say, 8 years, and then they might send him to Melbourne for so long, and then he comes back again. It just so they get a little bit of a change. But I think now, because they don't have the priests, so many priests, they have closed the actual parish down in Melbourne, although they've still got a couple of priests over in the, I think it's the unis or something, over there.
So he's obviously part of Wanneroo.
He's part of Wanneroo, yes. I told him we got old together.
Camilla, this is lovely. I'd like to say thank you.
Oh, thank
for doing
you.
This interview with me.
I hope it comes out all right.
I will be fine. Thank you.
Sounds